A Japanese badge does not guarantee a smart buy in 2026. Some models still deliver quiet comfort and longer life, while others hide CVT trouble, recall baggage, and costly mistakes. In this video, we are breaking down 3 traps that look safe on a used lot, and 4 picks that still make real-world sense for families, highway miles, and daily driving. No sales pitch, no badge worship, just garage truth. Stay with us, because number 1 gives you luxury comfort, strong reliability, and none of the usual German pain. Number 7. Nissan Altima. The Nissan Altima is the official sponsor of bad credit scores and transmissions that have the structural integrity of a wet paper towel. This is the cheap mid-size sedan that fools a lot of smart buyers because the sticker looks safe, the shape looks normal, and the monthly payment looks easy. Then the math turns ugly. The 2.5-liter Altima from 2013 through 2018 is not awful because the engine is weak. It is not awful because the cabin is tiny. It is awful because the CVT can take a simple commuter car and turn it into a stressful gamble. A 2016 model now sits around $10,000 in many used markets, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And that price is exactly why people keep talking themselves into it. You get a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder with 182 horsepower, front-wheel drive, and about 31 miles per gallon combined, which sounds like a clean, practical deal for somebody trying to stay under 10 grand. And to be fair, the front seats are decent, the ride is soft enough for daily work, and the trunk is useful for groceries, tools, or a weekend run. But road noise is worse than key rivals. Engine sound gets coarser when you push it, and once you get past that first impression, the risk starts showing. The rear seat also works for adults on shorter trips, which makes this whole trap feel even more reasonable. I have seen buyers focus on the fuel bill, then ignore the transmission history, and that is where this car can bite. A cheap payment means nothing if the powertrain is the gamble. If you are a commuter, a first-time buyer, or a guy trying to stretch every dollar, this car looks like it was built for you. I still would not buy it. Before you even think about signing, check for delayed engagement when shifting into drive. Feel for shuddering under light throttle. Ask for real CVT service history. Listen for rear suspension clunks. And make sure any open campaigns were handled. Also, watch how it behaves fully warm, because some of the worst behavior shows up after a longer drive. If the seller gets vague, walk away. The next vehicle proves a Japanese badge can still give you comfort and sane ownership if the drivetrain is right. If this straight, useful truth saves you from a bad deal, subscribe before you shop. We protect your wallet first, not dealership feelings, so hit that button. Number 6. Mazda CX-5. While everyone else is overpaying for a plastic Toyota, the Mazda CX-5 is quietly offering a premium soul without the soul-crushing dealer markups. This is the compact SUV buyers should cross-shop a whole lot more when they are tired of paying Toyota money or Honda money for every safe choice on the lot. The non-turbo Mazda CX-5 from 2018 through 2021 gets a lot right because it stays simple where it matters. The 2.5-liter 4-cylinder is naturally aspirated. The 6-speed automatic is a real automatic. And that whole setup feels like something built for normal ownership instead of brochure hype. A 2018 model now lands around the mid-$16,000 range in many markets, which makes this one of the easier value plays in the used crossover world. You get 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque, and roughly 24 to 31 miles per gallon, depending on front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. None of that sounds flashy, and that is exactly the point. This thing does not need a turbo, a CVT, or a lot of drama to feel good. It just works. When buyers compare it to a CR-V or RAV4, the Mazda feels more buttoned down, more personal, and less appliance-like. That matters on a long highway day. You are not just buying reliability here. You are buying a cabin and chassis that feel alive after the honeymoon wears off. Inside, the cabin feels quieter and more upscale than many buyers expect. The seats are supportive, and the whole vehicle feels tight on the highway, in a way that makes a road trip easier on your back and nerves. For a small family, an empty nest couple, Or a commuter who wants SUV height without bloated ownership costs. This is a really smart buy. It feels more expensive than it is, and it does that without leaning on complicated hardware. Before buying, check tire wear, ask for service records, look up any open recalls, test the screen for lag, and watch for signs that oil changes were skipped. A clean one is worth real money. And as solid as this Mazda is, the next one looks like a luxury family upgrade, but the transmission story changes everything. Number 5. Infiniti QX60. The Infiniti QX60 is just a Nissan Pathfinder wearing an expensive tuxedo, but it still has the same fragile heart that will leave you stranded at the valet stand. This is the luxury family SUV that can fool even smart buyers because the cabin feels rich, the seating is useful, and the used price looks like somebody made a mistake in your favor. But there is a reason the market discounts it. The 2017 through 2020 QX60 gives you a strong 3.5-liter V6, about 295 horsepower, 270 pound-feet of torque, room for 7, and around 22 miles per gallon combined. On paper, that sounds like a comfortable family win. A 2019 example often lands in the mid to high teens now, which sounds tempting when you compare it to what a similar Lexus will cost, and I get why people fall for it. The ride is quiet, the cabin feels plush enough for long drives, the third row is easier to access than many rivals, and for family road trips, it can feel like a bargain. And that is what makes it so dangerous on a used lot. A tired family can sit in one, feel the soft ride, see the big moonroof, notice the easy third row access, and convince themselves they found luxury for sensible money. Sometimes the market discount is valuable. Here, too often, it is warning. But the CVT keeps it off my safe buy list. This is one of those vehicles where the engine is not the main worry. The transmission is. The low used price is there for a reason, and the leather, badge, and nice seats do not cancel that risk. If you are shopping for 3 rows because you have kids, grandkids, or long highway runs ahead, this thing will absolutely get your attention. I still would not put my own money on it. Take a full warm drive and pay close attention to how the transmission responds when you ease back into the throttle. Ask for real CVT fluid history, confirm the ABS recall was completed, check brake feel, and if it is all-wheel drive, ask about transfer case or AWD service too. A smooth test drive is not enough if the paperwork is thin. The next car goes the other way completely. Less flashy, less trendy, and far safer money for a buyer who cares about ownership, not image. If you want family car advice that looks past cheap pricing, leather trim, and badge hype, subscribe now. Real ownership always matters more. Number 4. Toyota Avalon, best. The Toyota Avalon is the ultimate grown man loophole. It is essentially a Lexus with a discount badge and zero interest in your neighbor's opinion. This is the large Japanese sedan most buyers ignore because it is not trendy, not flashy, and not built to impress a neighbor in a parking lot. That is exactly why the Avalon is such a strong buy. A 2017 Avalon with the V6 now sits around $17,000 to $18,000 in many used markets, and that buys a lot more car than most people expect. You get a 3.5-liter V6 with 268 horsepower, 248 pound-feet of torque, a 6-speed automatic, and about 24 miles per gallon combined. More importantly, you get a setup that feels proven, simple, and built for people who just want to drive without drama. This car is not trying to act sporty. It is trying to make every mile feel easier, and for a lot of grown men, that matters more than badge heat. I have watched buyers step out of smaller crossovers, drop into an Avalon, and suddenly go quiet because the seat feels better, the ride feels calmer, and the whole cabin feels made for adults. Inside, the Avalon is silent, spacious, and genuinely comfortable. The front seats are plush, the rear seat works for real adults, and highway miles disappear in a way most compact crossovers cannot match. If you spend hours on interstates, if you want a road trip car that does not leave you stiff, or if you are simply tired of climbing into small crossovers that ride worse and cost more, this thing makes a lot of sense. It is especially smart for older buyers, empty nesters, couples, and long-distance commuters who want steady ownership over image. And that is the reason to buy it. This is one of the easiest long-term ownership plays in the Japanese market if comfort matters more than trend chasing. Before buying, check for full maintenance records. Pay attention to suspension feel over broken pavement. Look at tire age. Test every dash and infotainment function. And watch for signs of hard fleet life. Find a clean one, and you get large comfort without big nonsense. The next worst pick proves that a newer family SUV is not always a safer bet than an older big sedan. Number 3. Subaru Ascent. The Subaru Ascent is a rolling reminder that love is apparently not enough to keep a turbocharged head gasket from exploding in your driveway. This is the family SUV people buy with strong intentions, because it checks every box that looks right on paper. You get all-wheel drive, standard safety tech, room for kids, room for gear, and enough ground clearance to make snowbelt buyers feel secure. That is why the Subaru Ascent from 2019 to 2020 hits so hard here. It sounds like the smart answer, but the ownership story is not stable enough for a family hauler. A 2020 model now sits right around $21,000 in many used markets, and that sounds honest until you start looking at the history behind it. The powertrain gives you a 2.4-liter turbo boxer 4, 260 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque, a high-torque CVT, standard all-wheel drive, and about 22 miles per gallon combined. On a brochure, that sounds strong. In real ownership, that turbo plus CVT combo is just not the kind of setup I want to recommend to a budget-minded family trying to avoid surprise bills. Subaru also had major recall activity tied to the Ascent, including chain guide breakage concerns in the CVT system on affected vehicles, and that alone changes the tone of the buy. What hurts it most is simple. Family cars should feel peaceful, predictable, and boring in the best possible way. This one has had too many repair conversations to feel boring enough. To be fair, the seats are comfortable, the cabin layout is useful, and the visibility is pretty solid for something this size. But the third row is not great for long adult trips, and cabin noise is not class-leading once you settle into highway speed. If you live where winters are rough, if you need 3 rows, and if you are shopping on a tighter budget, I understand why the Ascent gets your attention. I still would not buy one unless the history is unusually clean. Confirm every recall was completed. Feel for brake judder. Watch how the transmission behaves fully warm. Scan for warning lights. Listen for front-end noises. And study tire wear. The next vehicle actually earns its price because it gives you useful utility without punishing you every day. Number 2. Honda Ridgeline. Best. The Honda Ridgeline is the truck for men who have actually outgrown the insecurity of needing a massive ladder frame just to haul 3 bags of mulch. This is for the guy who wants truck usefulness, but is finally done pretending he needs a stiff body on frame pickup for grocery runs, commute miles, and the occasional weekend project. The Honda Ridgeline from 2020 to 2022 is one of the smartest trucks for normal life because it does real work without turning every drive into a compromise. A 2020 example now sits around $25,000 in many used markets, and that price makes sense when you look at what you are getting. There is a 3.5-liter V6 with 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, a 9-speed automatic, available all-wheel drive, and up to 5,000 pounds of towing in AWD trims. Those are useful numbers, but the bigger story is how this truck feels from the seat. It hauls plywood, bikes, and luggage, then settles on the freeway like a sane family vehicle. The cabin is roomy, the visibility is strong, and the ride is unusually smooth for a pickup. That matters if you actually live with your vehicle every day. On a long trip, that matters even more because a Ridgeline feels civilized, where a lot of mid-sized trucks still feel busy, bouncy, and tired. This is the truck for homeowners, dads, road trip drivers, weekend haulers, and buyers who need a bed for mulch, tools, or furniture, but do not want heavy-duty macho theater every morning. It feels more like a practical crossover with an open bed than a traditional truck, and that is exactly why so many smart buyers end up loving it. You should buy it because it does honest truck work without beating you up during the week. It also has one of the most useful tricks in the segment, with the in-bed trunk, which makes normal life easier in a way spec sheets never explain. Before buying, check whether the tailgate harness recall work was done. Make sure the transmission stays smooth. Ask about all-wheel drive service history. Inspect the bed and trunk carefully. And test the rear camera. Number 1 is not a truck or an SUV. It is the smartest comfort buy in this whole video. Subscribe for practical picks, reliable comfort, honest prices, and a lot of truths most salespeople never share before your hard-earned money disappears. Number 1. Lexus ES 350 Best. The Lexus ES 350 is the absolute zenith of logical luxury. It is the only car on this list that will actually outlive your heirs without ever throwing a dashboard tantrum. This is the Japanese car that makes the strongest case for smart money in 2026 because it gives you luxury comfort without the usual German ownership pain. The 2019 through 2021 Lexus ES 350 is what happens when a car company stops chasing fashion and builds something calm, polished, and honestly easy to live with. A 2019 model now sits around the upper $20,000 range in many used markets, which is not cheap, but it is still a very fair price when you look at what you get. There is a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 making 302 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque, paired with a real 8-speed automatic, not a CVT, not some confusing dual-clutch setup, just a smooth, proven transmission that does its job without turning every drive into a lesson in patience. Fuel economy lands around 22 city and low 30s highway, which is solid for a roomy sedan this quiet and this refined. On the road, this car feels silent, plush, and deeply settled. The ride is soft without feeling sloppy. The seats are supportive on long interstate runs, and adult passengers in the rear actually get real space instead of a stylish roofline, stealing inches from their heads and knees. This is for empty nesters, business commuters, road trip drivers, and older buyers who want something upscale without signing up for upscale headaches. And that is exactly why you buy it. This is one of the cleanest mixes of comfort, reliability, and resale logic in the used market. If a Camry feels too plain and a BMW, Audi, or Mercedes feels too risky once the warranty is gone, this is the answer. The reason the naturally aspirated V6 and conventional automatic still matter is simple. Less heat, less complexity, fewer expensive surprises, and a more natural driving feel when the miles start piling up. German rivals often answer with more Technik, more turbos, more badge heat, and often more stress once they age. This Lexus answers with quiet confidence. It does not try to impress you for 15 minutes on a test drive. It wins by making Year 3, Year 5, and Year 8 feel easier, calmer, and cheaper. That is a much smarter kind of luxury. Before you buy, inspect tire wear, ask for full service history, test every infotainment function, check accident history, confirm open recalls are handled, and listen closely for suspension noises over rough pavement. Also, make sure the cabin electronics, seat functions, and driver aids behave the way they should, because even a reliable luxury sedan still needs a clean history. Compare it to a used 5 Series or E-Class, and the value story gets very clear. Those cars may look hotter on day one, but this Lexus is how grown men buy quiet comfort without getting played later. Click the next video on your screen, because the market still rewards patient buyers who choose proven cars over popular badges. Smart ownership beats trend chasing every single time. Stay sharp, buy calmer, and keep your money where it belongs before another overpriced mistake empties your wallet again.